Good morning, everybody. We'd like to welcome you to this talk of Retina South Africa. My name is Claudette Medefund, and I'm Head of Patient Services. And as you know, Retina South Africa provides services to patients with all types of retinal disease. As a counsellor, one of the most common things that I come across, especially with newly diagnosed people, is how do I communicate when I can't see? How do I handle a cell phone? And we're very happy to say that somebody is going to be here to talk to us about the use of devices, which is essential in today's interconnected world. Do you know what you need to access, how to get it, and how to use all these important devices? And we have with us today one of the experts, who's Benjamin Pedro, who works at the Cape Town Society for the Mind. And thank you so much, Pedro, for being with us today, because this is such a big problem for people trying to handle all these devices. And we'll leave it to you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. As you said, my name is Benjamin, and I'm Smart Digital Facilitator here at the CTSB, Cape Town Society for the Blind. And my responsibility on a daily basis would be ensuring that our beneficiaries can use their smartphones successfully with either no or little sighted assistance. Now, we do this by making use of a standard smartphone, be it your Android phone, meaning your Samsung devices or other Android devices, and or your iOS, iPhone mobile devices. Now, we would mainly make use of our phones with the use of a screen reader. And a screen reader would then allow us, as blind or partially sighted people, allow us to ensure that we are able to know what's displayed visually on the screen. And the screen reader would then put everything over into speech form so that we can hear and not see with our eyes what's happening on the screen. Now, for Android devices, we make use of mainly a talkback as the screen reader. And for your iOS devices, we would use the voice over screen reader on the iPhones. That is what we would use in these days. So previously, in earlier years, we had much difficulty in accessing basically your things that one would want to do on a daily basis on your phone, be it texting someone, making a normal phone call to someone, browsing the internet, sending emails, that type of thing. But in recent years, things have become much easier and much smarter, where the screen reader would allow us to do basically anything on our phones. So we would be able to make phone calls, access our contacts, access our social media platforms, emails, internet, and that type of thing. Now, a lot of people would call me, sometimes come into our premises here and have a few problems. Now, a few of those problems would be, how do I access or how do I interact with the phone using the screen reader? So obviously, when we use the screen, when we access or enable the screen reader, the use of the phone would change slightly. So where we would normally touch on a specific icon to open it up, we would have to, with the screen reader, get that icon into focus first. And we still touch where we would think the icon is on the screen, but in this case, our screen reader would then just read the icon name. Let's use WhatsApp as example. So we would touch where WhatsApp is visually displayed on the screen, and that would then mean that icon is in focus. Then this would allow us to know that we touched with our finger on the screen on the right icon, and we would have to double tap the screen. Then this goes for both iOS and Android devices. We would have to then double tap the screen to tell the phone, okay, look, open up this specific icon, whatever it was that we touched on, and we would then have this icon activated or app opened up, depending on what we had in focus. Now, some people don't normally understand the concept of how to interact with their phone or how to instruct the screen reader to then do certain things. Now, that is one of the problems that I would first have to explain to them on how to activate certain things, how to get you from point A to point B, and get you going, in other words, with the use of your phone. Another method of interacting with your phone would then be, as we refer to it as the swiping method. And that would be when we, for instance, use one finger, it's like a sweep, a movement across the screen from left to right. And that is then supposed to move your focus from the one icon to the next one that is visually displayed on the screen. And a lot of people that I speak to struggle on a daily basis with getting those swiping movements 100%. And in most cases, people would stick to the swiping method because that is then allowing us to ensure that we read all the information that is on the screen. But the more you familiarize yourself with your phone, with the layout of the screen and which button, for instance, or which piece of text is visually displayed on the screen, we would then use what we refer to as explore by touch. And that is what I explained earlier, where you would touch on different parts of the screen, allowing us to basically figure out what is situated on that specific spot on the screen. And that is a more quicker way of interacting with your phone. So for instance, if I know that the WhatsApp icon is top left-hand corner of my screen, I would touch where I think the icon is. And if it's done successfully, then your screen reader should then read that name back to you. If it's not done successfully, you would then obviously land on a different icon. If you touch a different icon, then your screen reader would then just read that icon back to you. And you can then touch a different spot until you reach the icon or app name that you are interested in opening up at that stage. Yeah, that is one of the major problems of how to interact with your phone. Another one would be, for instance, people would always by accident adjust the speech rate of the screen reader. So when we start out using our phones, we normally start out at a slow speed so that we can understand what either your talkback or voiceover is trying to say to you. Because at times it would read a lot of information and then we would have to figure out, okay, look, this thing said a lot of information. What is it that I'm interested in? And then a lot of people would, with not knowing how to successfully use the screen reader, be it talkback or voiceover, we would then, they would then, without realizing, adjust the speech rate. And I would then also have to show them how to do that. There's two different ways of doing it with either your talkback or your iOS device or iPhone. And we would have to make use of the rotor for your iPhone device. The rotor is where we would take two fingers, turn it on the screen as we would turn a dial. I normally use my thumb and index finger, place the 2 points of the two fingers on the screen and turn it either clock or anti-clockwise until you reach where it says speech rate. And then to decrease the speed, we can then swipe that one finger down. To increase, we would then flick one finger up on the screen. And by doing that, it would then increase the speech rate by 5% at a time. For your talkback, we would then swipe or flick, same thing. We would then do that with 3 fingers, either up or down. And again here until we get to something called speech rate. And we can then also decrease it by doing a 1 finger swipe down or increase it by a 1 finger swipe up. That is another problem that people would normally have. Some people would come to me with questions like, look, is it possible for a blind person to do their banking? I have this shop that I need to pay, or I have to pay this specific person. And the answer to that in short would be yes. Obviously, all banks apps work differently, but eventually we should then get to the end result, be it paying a friend that you owe, be it you need to pay your bills, shops, whatever, do online shopping as well. That is also possible in these days with either your talkback or a voice-over screen reader. The way of doing those things is obviously different because of being two different platforms, two different screen readers, but also depending on what you would be able to afford at that stage. A lot of blind people would say that, okay, iPhone is the best. And then I would normally ask, okay, look, what is it that you intend to do with the phone? If it's only browsing the internet, sending emails, doing a bit of social media, calling, the odd calling, reading a book type of thing, you wouldn't be able to do that with your Android device. In my opinion anyway, not that iPhones would allow you to do anything more, but I'm using Android personally, and I don't think there's anything that I would want to do that I wouldn't be able to do with my Android device. But different people like different platforms, and if you can afford it, it suits your pocket for iPhone, then by all means. But people would normally go for Android devices. What I would always recommend is stay away from the too cheap Android devices. If you really want a lot of joy out of your phone and not struggle. Because one thing that we need to keep in mind is as soon as we turn on our screen reader, the screen reader constantly uses a bit of processing power. It uses a bit of your RAM, and in other words, your storage space, that type of thing. And we need sufficient processing power to process that. Look, the screen reader needs processing power to run as well as the actual process that we need to do, be it browsing the internet at that stage. So we then need to, in other words, two processes would then be running at the same time, your screen reader as well as the actual process that you're doing at that stage. So I would normally recommend Samsung devices to people. Others might think otherwise, and again, it also depends on what your pocket can suit, what you want to do with the phone, what your plans are. And I would normally recommend in storage wise, either the 32 gigs on board or 64, because what happens is as time goes, apps normally get updated, and with updates, it brings new features. And also with that, it increases in the actual size that it would have to take up from your internal storage. And the more the app updates, the more size it would use, and the more, obviously, we need sufficient internal storage, because that is where the updates would then go and be installed onto, in other words. So then we would need sufficient internal storage space so that we can use the screen reader successfully, and then also whatever apps it might be that we have onto the phone. Also try and keep maybe the phone clear from unnecessary photos, videos. I know we as either blind or partially sighted people would like to have some photos taken of us or family members, videos, but that can also take a bit of storage space. If your phone does support having a memory card, rather save it to the memory card instead of having it take up from your internal space, which you could have used for your apps and things that you would want to install onto the phone. Another problem that people would sometimes have is, I have this photo here. How do I have my phone describe it to me? And we have a few apps for iPhone. We would use Seeing AI, SEEING space AI is that app's name, that we would use to have photos described. It would try and describe what is in this image, be it it's a background or it's sun, or there's a light in the background, that type of thing. And then also for your Android, we would use an app called Kibo, Kibo. And those ones would then try and describe your photos, if you would have any sent to you, or you would have photos taken, and you would now try and recognize what photo is this, because I would like to send the photos taken this morning to another family member. Those are the main ones, main problems, few tips that I have at this stage.
Thank you very much. That was great, Benjamin. I have a question for you. I use an Apple, so it's very easy for me to negotiate. Plus, I have some vision. And that makes a difference. I understand that. But I still didn't quite catch how you actually activate your talkback on an Android phone. Do you have to use the on button, or how do you actually access it?
Okay. By default, what I've seen in the way manufacturers are moving to, they are trying to move to where you should hold down both your volume buttons for about 3 seconds, and that should then bring on your talkback screen reader. Now that is how it's supposed to work. Not all manufacturers adapt that approach. That is for Android phones, for be it your Samsung or earlier versions of the Huawei phones, but that is where they are currently moving to. And hopefully one day all manufacturers, all types of phones would, for Android anyway, you would be able to do that. For your iPhones, those who still have the home button, you should be able to press the home button for about 3 times, and that should bring on your voiceover screen reader.
Thank you, Benjamin. I see you mentioned Seeing AI. I've used Seeing AI when it's dark, because I don't see in the dark. But I know a lot of people use Seeing AI quite extensively if you're shopping and if you want details of what you're looking for to navigate. And I just, want to reiterate that Seeing AI or Be My Eyes are really great, especially Be My Eyes, because you have a person you can talk to and say, no, don't say that, do this. It's an app, a free app, that is really super. So I thank you for that. That was really very enlightening. I would like to thank you very much. And I would like to say to everybody who would like to contact you that they can, I presume, contact you through the National Council for the Blind. So thank you very much for that, Benjamin. And I would like to tell anybody who's viewing this video, if they'd like to support either Retina South Africa or the Cape Town Society for the Blind, you could go onto myschool.co.za and nominate Retina South Africa and the Cape Town Society for the Blind as your beneficiaries, because you can have up to 3 beneficiaries and at no cost to you. Both these organizations that work very hard to help people with vision loss to actually raise some much needed funds. If you'd like to contact Retina South Africa, please go to our website, which is retinasa.org.za. You can contact us via our helpline, which is 0860-595959, or email us at headoffice@retinasa.org.za. And we'd also like to invite you to contact Benjamin at the Cape Town Society for the Blind. He's Benjamin Pedro, and he's the Smart Digi Facilitator, and their telephone number is 021-448-4302, and his email address is teacher.m@ctsb.org.za. And thank you so much, Benjamin. And we're going to get you back perhaps to a later session to go into computers, if that's all right with you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. And we'd like to thank all the people who are viewing this video. And remember, don't try and do it alone. Help is always at hand. Thank you.